Los Angeles, north side of Wilshire Boulevard, March 14, 2019. 15 minutes after noon. Ozzy Osbourne stepped out of an office building in Beverly Hills with a crowded mind. He and Sharon, along with their lawyers, had been finalizing the last details of a new merchandise agreement. He was 70 now, yet he still read every line of every contract. Sharon always said, "Trust no one, especially the ones in suits." Ozzy put on his sunglasses and pulled up the zipper of his leather jacket. This season in Los Angeles carried an odd temperature, not warm, not cool. His driver, Trevor, waited around the corner in the black Mercedes, but Ozzy felt like walking. "Trevi," he said, "come back in 20 minutes. I'm going to take a walk." As he moved down the sidewalk, his fingers rolled a metal lighter in his pocket. He had quit smoking 8 years earlier, but the habit lingered. People nearby were lost in their phones. No one glanced his way, which suited him. Fame was usually a burden. People always wanted something: a picture, an autograph, a selfie, a quick moment. But on this Thursday afternoon, Ozzy was simply an older man in a leather jacket strolling slowly and thinking. 50 meters ahead, on the broad stone steps in front of a bank, a man sat alone. Ozzy didn't notice him at first, not until he heard the music, guitar, acoustic, not electric. And the melody felt familiar, deeply familiar. Ozzy stopped and turned toward the sound. In front of the man lay an open guitar case holding a few coins and a single dollar bill. The man looked elderly, perhaps 65 or 70, his face weathered and sunburnt to a reddish-brown shade. His hair was white, long, and unwashed. His beard looked the same. He wore a military green parka, worn down and torn in several spots. His pants were old camouflage, faded from time. On his feet were military boots, but the laces were snapped, and this man was playing the song Ozzy Osbourne had written back in 1970, the one that reshaped rock music. The song with one of the most recognizable riffs in history. Iron Man. Ozzy paused. The riff was exact, slow, heavy, and deep. The man's fingers moved steadily over the strings of an old Yamaha acoustic. His eyes stayed closed. He sang the lyrics, though nothing came out. Only his lips moved. Ozzy took a step closer, then another. His heart sped up. For 5 decades he had heard that riff everywhere. Live shows, radio, recordings, ads, online. But here, on a sidewalk played by a homeless veteran, it felt different. Heavier. More honest. Filled with real struggle. A cardboard sign lay in front of the man. The writing was faded, parts unreadable. Vietnam vet. Anything helps. God bless. Ozzy reached into his pocket and pulled out his wallet. Inside were a few $100 in bills, 20s, 50s, 100s. He removed a $100 note, folded it, and set it in the guitar case. The man kept playing, eyes still shut. He hadn't seen it. Ozzy stepped back and watched. When the riff finally ended, the man slowly opened his eyes. He glanced at the guitar case. He saw the 100. He lifted his head and looked at Ozzy. His expression showed surprise, but also deep exhaustion. Ozzy lowered his sunglasses a little so the man could see his eyes. "You play that well," he said, his voice slightly rough. "Really well." The man tried to smile, but it carried sadness and strain. "Thank you, sir," he replied. His voice was dry, as if unused. "That song, it means a lot to me." Ozzy nodded. "It does to me too, mate. It always has." A quiet moment followed. Ozzy knew he should leave. Trevor was waiting in the car, and Sharon expected him home. But he didn't move. Something about the man's empty, distant look kept him there. Ozzy recognized it. He had seen that same look in his own reflection decades earlier, during the worst years of addiction, when he felt the world had given up on him, and he had given up on himself. "What's your name, mate?" Ozzy asked. The man hesitated, as if the question was unfamiliar. "Daniel," he said. "Daniel Carson. But people used to call me Danny." Ozzy reached out his hand. "I'm Ozzy." Danny shook it. His hand was rough and hardened, but unsteady. "I know who you are, Mr. Osbourne," he said with quiet respect. "Everyone knows who you are." Ozzy let out a small laugh, that familiar, slightly wild chuckle. "Well, not everyone. Sharon says half the world thinks I'm already dead." Danny smiled again, this time a little more genuine. Ozzy sat beside him on the stone steps. They were cold, but he didn't mind. Danny stared at him in disbelief. One of the most recognized rock musicians in the world was sitting at his side. You play Iron Man like you lived it, Ozzy said. Not many people manage that. Danny looked down at his guitar. The strings carried the marks of countless hours of use. I did live it, sir, he said softly. Not the exact story, but the feeling. That heavy, cold, metal feeling. Like you're trapped inside something you can't escape. Like you stop being a person and become something else. Ozzy felt his chest tighten. He understood exactly what Danny meant. This was the connection. They had created Iron Man back in 1970. Tony Iommi had come up with that unforgettable riff, and Geezer Butler had written the lyrics. The story centered on a man who walked into a magnetic storm to save humanity, but the storm transformed him into steel. When he returned, no one recognized him. He couldn't speak, only move, and people simply ignored him. In the end, he took his revenge, but the deeper meaning was always this: soldiers returning from war, PTSD, trauma, and isolation. Society sends them off as heroes, yet when they return, many feel like iron figures, silent, frozen, unseen. You served? Ozzy asked. Danny nodded. Vietnam. 68 to 70. Marines. 2 tours. His tone was flat, without emotion, but his eyes carried storms. I was 19 when I left. Came back at 21. But the kid who went over there, he never came back. Only the metal version did. Ozzy wanted to respond, but nothing felt right. What could he say? Thank you for your service? That wouldn't change anything. I'm sorry, that wasn't enough either. So instead he asked, what happened when you got home? Danny drew in a long breath. His fingers rested on the guitar strings without playing. Nothing happened, Mr. Osbourne. That's the whole issue. I came home. They handed me a medal, gave me my discharge papers, and that was it. No job, no support, no therapy. Just good luck. I tried. God knows I tried. Worked in a factory for 3 years. But the noise, the machines, every loud sound felt like gunfire. I'd hit the floor. People laughed. They fired me. Said I wasn't stable. Ozzy listened. That was all he could do. My wife left in 76, Danny continued. Took the kids. Said I wasn't the same man she married. And she was right. I wasn't. I was just pieces held together, pretending to be whole. I started drinking to cope. Lost the apartment. Lost everything. I've been on the streets since 1981. 38 years now. 38. Ozzy's mind raced. 1981. That was the year he released Diary of a Madman. The year he toured with Randy Rhoads. The year he earned millions. And during that same time, Danny Carson, a Vietnam veteran, had been homeless for nearly 4 decades. Why Iron Man? Ozzy asked. Why that song? Danny smiled. And this time there was a faint spark behind it, a memory. First time I heard it was in 1971. On a radio. I was in the VA hospital. They were treating shrapnel injuries. He hesitated before getting in. I don't want to ruin anything, he said quietly. But Ozzy shook his head. Don't worry about it, mate. Seats can be cleaned. People can't be replaced. Danny slowly sat down, holding his guitar close as if it were something fragile. He kept his eyes lowered, unsure of where to look or what to say. Trevor pulled into traffic while glancing in the rearview mirror, still trying to understand what was happening. Ozzy didn't explain. He looked at Danny instead. First things first, we're getting you a hot meal, he said. Danny opened his mouth as if to object, but stopped. He simply nodded. A few minutes later, they arrived at a small restaurant Ozzy liked. It wasn't fancy, but it was quiet. As they stepped inside, a few people noticed Ozzy, but he didn't pay attention. He guided Danny to a table. The waiter hesitated when he saw Danny's clothes, but Ozzy gave him a look that settled everything. They ordered. Danny asked for something simple, like he didn't want to take too much. Ozzy added extra items anyway. Eat whatever you want. No need to hold back. When the food arrived, Danny ate slowly at first, almost unsure if it was allowed. Then the hunger took over, and he finished everything on his plate. Ozzy watched quietly. He wasn't judging, he was thinking. For years, he'd heard different people talk about supporting veterans, but this was the first time he'd sat across from someone who had lived the consequences. Someone who had been forgotten for nearly 4 decades. After the meal, Ozzy leaned back. All right, he said. Here's what we're going to do. Danny looked up, unsure. I'm not making promises I can't keep, Ozzy continued. But I want to get you some proper help. Housing, medical care, whatever you need. And I'm going to make sure it actually happens. Danny blinked hard. He seemed overwhelmed, almost unable to believe it. Mr. Osbourne. People don't usually follow through, he said softly. Ozzy nodded. I know. That's why I'm telling you. I'm not most people. Danny didn't answer. His eyes were wet, but he was steady. For the first time in a long while, he looked less like someone fading into the background and more like a man trying to return to himself. Ozzy stood, signaling Trevor. Come on, Danny. This is only step one. And for the first time that day, Danny rose without hesitation. A nurse had turned on the radio. The song started playing. And I cried, because for the first time, I felt understood. Someone out there knew what it was like to feel like the Iron Man, to feel frozen, unseen, and disconnected from everyone. Ozzy's eyes grew wet. For 50 years, that song had meant something deep to this man. It had been a lifeline, a reminder that he wasn't completely alone. And now, the person who helped write that song was sitting right beside him, but Danny didn't seem to care that Ozzy was the writer. Or maybe he remembered and simply didn't treat him differently. Maybe the song no longer belonged to Ozzy. It belonged to Danny now. Danny, Ozzy said slowly. I want to do something. I don't know exactly what yet, but something. You shouldn't be living like this. Not after everything you've done for your country. Danny nodded, but his smile was tired. I appreciate it, Mr. Osbourne. I really do. But I've heard things like that before. People mean well, and then life goes on. And I'm still here on these steps with this guitar. And that's all right. I've learned to live with it. But Ozzy Osbourne wasn't someone who accepted, that's all right. Sharon always said, you're as stubborn as a mule, Ozzy. Once you make up your mind, nothing can stop you. Ozzy stood up and called Trevor. Trevi, come over to Wilshire. What's the cross street? He asked Danny. Danny answered slowly, still confused. Camden. Wilshire and Camden. 5 minutes. Ozzy said into the phone. Then he looked at Danny. Come on, mate. You're coming with me. Danny pulled back slightly. What? No, I can't. I mean, thank you, but, no, but, Ozzy said firmly, though not unkindly. You played my song. Now I'm going to do something for you. Fair trade. Danny's eyes filled with tears, fear or hope, or maybe both. Ozzy couldn't quite read them. When the Mercedes arrived, Trevor raised an eyebrow for a moment. Standing beside Ozzy was a homeless man with an old guitar. But he didn't ask anything. After 15 years driving for Ozzy, he'd learned that unusual situations were normal. Inside the car, Danny was still overwhelmed. He hesitated before sitting down, worried about being dirty or unpresentable, but Ozzy didn't react to any of it. He just handed him a bottle of water. Drink, mate. You look dehydrated. Danny drank carefully, still shaking. On the way, Ozzy phoned Sharon. Sharon, love, it's a bit of an odd situation, but I'll explain when we get there. I'm bringing someone home. Sharon sounded suspicious. Ozzy, what did you do now? Nothing bad, I promise. Just trust me. When they arrived, Sharon was already waiting at the door. The moment she saw Danny, her expression shifted. First surprise, then understanding, and finally that natural warmth she was known for. Hello, dear. You must be cold. Come inside, she said gently. Danny walked in as if he'd stepped into another world. The house was huge. Art, sculptures, and gold records filled the walls. Sharon guided him to the guest room and handed him clean towels. Shower is right there. Clothes are in the closet. Ozzy's older things should fit you. Take your time. Danny took a long shower, probably the longest he had in nearly 4 decades. When the warm water hit him, he cried quietly, without stopping. Downstairs, Ozzy explained everything to Sharon. She listened carefully and nodded. So what's the plan? She asked. I'm not sure yet, Ozzy admitted. But we start with food, rest, and a clear head. Then we figure it out. Sharon studied him. After 42 years of marriage, she recognized this version of Ozzy, the one who held on to a purpose and didn't let go. You're a good man, Ozzy Osbourne, she said softly. A strange, stubborn, but very good man. At dinner, the three of them sat together. Danny barely spoke at first. He just ate quietly. But Ozzy gently encouraged conversation. About Vietnam, the war, and what life was like afterward. Danny opened up. And for the first time in a long time, someone was truly listening. With no judgment, no pity, just listening. By the end of the evening, Ozzy said something carefully. Danny, mate, we wrote that song, but you showed me what it really means. For 50 years, I performed it on stage while you were surviving out here. And I never knew. Let me help now. Danny's eyes filled again. Mr. Osbourne, you already helped me. That song was my friend, sometimes my only friend. For decades. Ozzy nodded. Then let me give you more than a song. Let us give you real people in your corner. Starting tomorrow. The next morning, Ozzy and Sharon sat with Danny at the table, placing a notebook in front of him. Look, mate, Ozzy said calmly. We want to help, but properly, not by just handing out money and walking away. Real help, Sharon added firmly. We called Veterans Affairs. Someone is coming tomorrow. PTSD evaluation, benefits, medical checks, everything you should have received 50 years ago. Danny nodded, though his emotions made it hard to speak. Having hope again was almost frightening. A week later, the process began. A VA social worker met with Danny for hours. Tests were done. Paperwork completed. PTSD was officially diagnosed. Then the disability benefits were approved, with retroactive payment. When the first check arrived, Danny cried. $47,000.1 piece of paper. But an apology for nearly 4 decades of neglect. Ozzy didn't touch a cent. He helped Danny open a bank account and deposit the money. This is yours, he said. Not charity, not from me. Your earned benefits. Next came housing. Ozzy and Sharon found a small, quiet apartment in North Hollywood. They paid 6 months up front and explained, your VA benefits will cover the rent. We're only filling the gap until the system starts working for you. The apartment came fully furnished. A proper bed, a table, a chair, a fridge stocked with food. The first night Danny slept there, he cried until morning. After 38 years, he had a key, privacy, and safety. But perhaps the most meaningful thing Ozzy gave him was a new guitar. One Saturday, he took Danny to a music store. Choose one, he said. Anyone you like. Danny selected a Fender acoustic, shiny, new, and rich in sound. Ozzy bought a hard case, strings, and all the accessories. Your old Yamaha kept you going, Ozzy said. This one is for your future. Play Iron Man, play anything, just play, Danny. People need to hear you. 3 months passed. Danny was healing, slowly, but genuinely. Therapy, medication, steady meals, and stability helped, but he still needed purpose. Then an offer came from a veteran support center. Would you consider teaching music to other veterans? It's volunteer work, but we think you'd be great at it. Danny agreed. His first class was in September 2019. 3 young vets from Iraq and Afghanistan, all struggling, all uncertain. Danny lifted his guitar and played the opening riff of Iron Man. This song saved my life, he told them. And the man who wrote it saved it again. Now I want to share it with you. The classes grew, from 3 to 10, then to 25 that Danny had finally found something for himself.